Hello there. Welcome to SOS. I'm Mike Davis, joined right now by my man, James Edward Barrickman the fourth. James, I got to be real with you. I know we're going to be talking about this later in the show. I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you were going to show up to work for this show today because of.
I thought about leaving.
Did you actually?
I was. Well.
Tell everybody at home. I mean, we don't want to ruin it, but we have something later in the show we're going to be talking about.
I thought that I was going to leave, not because I want to leave, but because I was going to be fired for
losing your cool.
Losing my cool. Yeah.
I played a little prank on James this morning that if I have a glow about myself, it's because I got to prank this guy. This is a dude, mind you, who I love, who I come to work every day, gassing up, loving. I give him a pound. You do the thing. You do that. I do this, and he does that.
That's the snail. But then there's this one.
He does
and
that.
That's the turkey.
Me. So he does this to me on a constant basis, ladies and gentlemen. So today I decided to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to be telling you about that in Sink or Swim. But before we get into that, let's talk a lot of stuff to talk about. We have Mark Wahlberg joining the show today. You're going to love to hear all about him. We love Mark Wahlberg. But we're starting off with the Lions. Now, obviously, the Lions had a crazy win against the Texans on Sunday Night Football last week. Crazy win. Goff throws 5 picks. The team doesn't really look generally good in that showing, but they pull it out against Houston. James, we asked everybody at home, do you think Detroit, the Lions, are a true Super Bowl team? We got a lot of feedback. Let's hear one of the first calls we got.
Hey, good day, sound off. This is Anthony over in the McCullough Hills neighborhood of Henderson. All right, regarding the 2 questions. First, for the Lions, can they win the Super Bowl? Yes, because usually at this time of the season, the Super Bowl winners usually have a couple of qualifications, and the Lions have them both. They only have 1 loss. Usually the Super Bowl winner doesn't have any more than 2 losses at this time of the season. So that's 1 for them. Also, their plus-minus ratio in points is plus 12. 31 points on offense to only 19 points given up on defense. That's another qualification that the Super Bowl winners historically have. So they definitely can win the Super Bowl.
All right, James, well, that was a great call there from Anthony in McCullough Hills and Henderson. Anthony, a lot of good points there. He's got a keen eye on really what it takes to be a Super Bowl contender.
And all that was accurate, by the way. They are plus 12 in their point differential ratio.
And they're 8-1, top of the NFC North. Listen, their schedule coming up is really not too bad. It's the Jags, it's the Colts, it's the Bears, the Packers, the Bills, the Bears again, the 49ers, and the Vikings. So if I'm looking at this schedule, 49ers, Vikings, Packers, Bills are kind of the tough games. The thing I like about it is that you got the Jags, the Colts, the Bears twice in there, but you're also playing a few tough teams as well, because sometimes I think it's not great going into the playoffs without playing some hard knocks. So I kind of like the fact that they got a balanced schedule to round out the year.
And they faced some adversity, and we talked about this when we were deciding what we were going to ask, the fine folks here this week. Do you feel better or worse about Detroit's chances after overcoming the deficit in which they did? And I feel, honestly, better at this point. If you can go on the road in primetime against a good team, Texans, they're a good team. They've taken a step back this year. C.J. Stroud's kind of taken a step back this year. But a good football team, go on the road, overcome 5 interceptions from your quarterback, who otherwise has played pretty darn well this season, overcome a 16-point deficit at halftime to come back and win. They stared right into the face of adversity and bit its kneecaps off.
The Dan Campbell way.
Yeah, and found a way, didn't blink, just went to work and did what they had to do. And what I thought was just crazy is the defense pitched a shutout in the second half.
They didn't score anything.
Texans didn't score anything. They got the turnovers that Dan Campbell had asked for in that interview. You were watching the game.
Right.
They aired the clip at halftime of, hey, what do we need to do to get back in this game? And Dan Campbell said, we need turnovers. As soon as he said it, there was an interception, first play of the second half. And so I think Detroit is, I don't know, I know for a fact that there is not a more talented, more well-coached football team in the NFC And I would be hard-pressed to find one who is more talented or more well-coached in the entire league. I feel great about saying the Lions are going to win the NFC.
Yeah, I
don't think that's a hot take.
Here's where I'm worried, because I think a lot of people shared the same sentiment as you, James. They felt like, wow, if we can overcome our quarterback throwing 5 picks and still come out on top, that's pretty good. My worry is if we're talking Super Bowl, if we're talking playoffs, it's different than regular season. And I think the problem is Goff going to play like the MVP caliber guy that he was throughout the first course of the season, or is he going to revert to some of these turnover types of issues when it really comes down to the nitty-gritty and these games matter? Because I don't know if you're overcoming that against a lot of other teams, and that's the problem with the Texans.
5 interceptions is an anomaly. That's not.
It's an anomaly, and I think that's kind of weird. The thing is here, the defense for Detroit has taken a major step. I think that's the true difference of this Lions franchise this year. Is last year we know offensively they were looking great. This year they've had times where they've just been crushing opponents from an offensive standpoint. But the truth is, from a defensive side of the football, this organization has taken a major step under Aaron Glenn. He kind of looks like a great defensive coordinator now, where it was kind of wishy-washy in the initial stages of his coaching career. Now he looks like a bona fide great defensive coordinator. Even with Aiden Hutchinson out now, we still haven't seen new edge rusher Zadarius Smith, who they got from the Browns in. So that's going to be interesting to see him in the fold, filling that void. But, I agree with you, James. I mean, if you're a Lions fan, I think you're thinking after this loss, okay, I'm happy we came out on top. But in a weird sense, you're feeling more confident about your franchise.
Because you went, again, I just said it, but you went on the road against a good football team where you didn't have your best for an entire half. But despite all that, despite being on the road, despite it being in prime time, despite you being down 16 points at half, despite your quarterback not playing actually the worst ball he might have ever played in his entire career, you found a way to stay in it and come out with the victory. When one side of the football wasn't getting it done, the offense, the defense stepped up, shut them down in the second half. And it's a testament to the resiliency and the heart and the grit of that football team that has really taken on the identity of the city and its football coach.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm a huge fan of Dan Campbell. I'm a huge fan of that organization right now. Love what they're doing. I don't see a team that's beaten Detroit.
Yeah, I think they're a Super Bowl team. I love Campbell as well. I think he's done a tremendous job. And halftime adjustments. Your coach, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later on, is great at that as well. I think the fascinating thing is I think they just outsmarted themselves in this game plan because they didn't run the ball enough. And that's what they know.
That's their strength.
They can do that on every team. They got the best O-line in football. So it was kind of weird that they were, thinking, let's just throw the ball the entire game, whereas, Jahmyr Gibbs didn't get a ton of carries initially in that first set. Like him, Montgomery, that's the identity of this team. Get the run game going and then get into the play action and throwing downfield.
And that's where Goff really shines. You know what I mean? He's not, and you can say this about any quarterback when we talk about this, but if he needs protected and he needs a run game. But so does every other quarterback in the league.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Every quarterback looks good with that.
Right. So, you can't be asking Jared Goff to just stand back there and sling the ball around the field all game long. That's not his style. So when the Lions are at their best, they're running the football. They're moving people up front. They're going play action. And they are very, very – they're just so smart and tactical and in their approach offensively. I know that you're a big Ben Johnson guy, I think, as is pretty much everybody at this point. So I think that they know that. And again, they didn't play their best ball in the first half there, but the fact that they were able to lock in and still come out with a W there, I think is ultra impressive.
Yeah, I think it's like Anthony said. If you're looking at the win total and everything he was describing, I think the other thing you're looking at in terms of what type of traits does a Super Bowl team possess, I think it's overcoming wins
Adversity.
like this, and it's kind of the Chiefs have been doing that all season long. So it's part of those telltale signs of who's going to be there at the end of the year. James, let's hear another voicemail we got from some of the good people at home.
The Detroit Lions absolutely can win the Super Bowl. I see them as one of those teams that have heart, who've worked very hard to rebound, completely rebuild, and actually become something better than most people could even imagine. Go Detroit Lions. Heart, grit, let's go.
Yeah, heart, grit, let's go. Great call there. I think everybody's feeling that way about the Lions. Here's what I want to pose to you, James, and I'm curious what you think. We think they're going to do pretty well getting to the Super Bowl, but
of course, yeah.
If they can't get to the Super Bowl, if they lose in an NFC Championship game, who are the teams that could really be the potential roadblocks for them in the NFC particularly?
The only team I could see stopping Detroit would be San Francisco again. I think they are built similarly. They have as good of a coach as anybody in Kyle Shanahan. And when healthy, have as good of personnel as Detroit does. And so they're similarly built in that they are teams that have mean, nasty defenses, will beat you up. They love to run the football, and they have quarterbacks who, when they have protection and they have a running game, can be playmakers. So I think the only team that could stand in the way of Detroit is a healthy San Francisco team.
What about Philadelphia?
They're not well coached enough. I know that they are playing well right now, and I think you would agree with me as an Eagles fan. I do not trust Nick Sirianni. I think a lot of people would agree that it's their roster more so than anything that is getting them these W's, and they are winning in spite of their head coach a lot of times. Would you agree there?
Yes. I think if their defense stays playing the way it has been under Vic Fangio and it's finally starting to get its footing and look really good, I think I would have to say they have a better chance than San Fran. Just because San Fran, they don't look great right now. Now, I know they're not healthy. I know they're getting back, McCaffrey now, but I don't know. To me, that's the craziest thing about the Lions is that it's hard to imagine, when you look at their schedule and you see, to me, the Bills frighten me more than the 49ers or the Vikings for them just because of Josh Allen and the way.
Are we talking about NFC teams?
I'm just saying, I'm saying NFC, but I'm saying if I'm looking at the rest of their schedule, they still got to play the 49ers, the Vikings, the Packers, all NFC teams. But I look at that, I'm not even that worried about it. It's more so the Bills in the rest of their schedule that I think could hold them up a little bit.
That Bills-Lions game is going to be a great game, but as far as teams that could stop, because the Lions are going to the playoffs, and right now, if the season ended today, they'd be the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So the NFC would run through Detroit. Everybody's going to have to go to what's going to be an incredibly hostile environment. Could you imagine an NFC Championship game in Detroit?
People would go crazy.
It'd be bananas in there. I'm not worrying about the Bills in this exercise here because they wouldn't see them until the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying as I'm looking at their schedule. Bills AFC team, but that's the only one that pops out. I mean, I really think they're going to handily be okay against the 49ers, the Vikings, even the Pack. But James, as we head the break, let's get one more thought from a viewer at home.
The Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl. They are going to the Super Bowl because how do you come back from a 15 to 20-point deficit? Nobody else can do that like us. We're the best team. We literally lose our best player on defense and still come and win games.
All right, so something super exciting right now. Here's my interview with Mark Wahlberg, the actor, the entrepreneur. You got to love everything he's doing here in the Las Vegas community. Here's my conversation with Mark from his new restaurant, Flecha. Hey everybody, Mike Davis here. We're at Flecha at Town Square with the great Mark Wahlberg. Mark continues to make his mark here in Las Vegas. He wants to bring the silver screen to the silver state. We love the family plan. We love the union. He's got a new great movie coming out soon, directed by Mel Gibson. We got a lot to talk about, but we're here at Flecha right now. This is Mexican redefined. It's got a lot of the flavors, the traditional Mexican flavors that we love, but it's infused with some fusion, some good kind of stuff. Tell us why this place is going to make a big impact here in Las Vegas and why people are going to love it.
Well, first of all, we wanted to build something that was really catering to the community and not necessarily the strip. So like 80% of our customers are locals.
Yeah.
This is a chef-driven concept. And I've been in the restaurant business now for 14 years with my brothers and my family. And so it's all about having the right people. So finding the right chefs, the right operators, and creating something that's really special. It really is about Christian and Randy and what we've created together. And so making sure that I have the right people in the right positions to create the best experience, whether it's, the little touches like the welcome marg when you come in, or the best ceviche you've ever tasted, the best street tacos you've ever tasted, the best lobster enchiladas. I mean, the food is amazing, and of course the entire customer experience, the service, everything.
And listen, we spoke at another place on the border a few years ago. You were talking about Flecha Azul and all that great stuff. Let's continue talking about some other stuff, because here's what I think so interesting about you. You were just talking with the Nevada Independent. You're a local here. You moved here in 2022. Let's be real, you were saying some really great stuff. You've spoken to Governor Joe Lombardo. You really think it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the silver screen comes to Vegas. Tell us a little bit about why it's such a no-brainer and the cohesion behind Hollywood and how that's kind of dying and how this would be a great new place for Hollywood 2.0.
Look, first of all, there's so many talented people here, both in front of and behind the camera. I made 2 movies already here. But with both of those movies, all that money went back into the community. What I'm trying to do is encourage people like myself, if they're trying to pursue a better way of life, to move to Nevada, because that is my life and all the people that have come with me, life and lifestyle has vastly improved.
Right.
Since we've made that move. And so in order to do that, to get the people to come, the other talent outside of that, and people who are making the movies, writers, directors, actors, you need to have some sort of incentive here as far as a tax credit. And look, with the amount of jobs that we'll create, the amount of excitement that we'll create, as you know, we've got sports here now. Vegas is the place to be. And so we want to make sure that all that money is going back into the community. So for me, it's not about Disney getting a discount. It's about people coming here. It improves the housing market, it improves everything. So.
And I think, you're a guy who demonstrates such you work with people so well. A lot of celebrities don't display that. They don't demonstrate working with people well. You work with everybody, and it's a great thing.
Well, I'm trying to connect with people. COVID really gave a lot of people an excuse to distance themselves from people. I am trying to connect with people, and more importantly, I'm trying to bring people together to connect.
And you're here in the community. People see you all the time. Now, you got a new thing. Let's check the municipal thing. You got a new gym concept. It's all about recovery, fitness. You're about fitness and faith. We know everything you do with Halo, but now EOS is partnering with Municipal to start this new gym in downtown Summerlin. Tell us about that.
So great operators. I wanted to create something that was super luxury, super high end, that really has all the bells and whistles, but also has the best and most serious training.
Yeah.
So with the recovery center, rejuvenation therapies, cafes, cold plunges, everything you can imagine, and a retail store inside, but the best equipment, state-of-the-art everything, and a place where you've got the best personal trainers, and you could come, and you're going to also be embraced in a way, and we're going to create a community like the 4 a.m. Club, where, we are going to create, there's a content element, there's lots of things happening that I think is going to change the face of fitness.
If we can be 1% as much as you are with your fitness regimen, that would be a good thing. So
trying to encourage people. It's so much easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape.
Yes.
And you want to be around, you want to be able to move.
Consistency.
Yes, for longevity, consistency, and just a healthy lifestyle. Finding that balance of eating right, exercising, having your cheat meal, kind of going and celebrating your victories, right? And then
you
getting
post
back
that
after
on social. We see that all the time.
I want to make sure, and I'm trying to share, all the things that I've learned along the way, and try to help people avoid the mistakes that I've made in the past with fitness and training the wrong way, bad diet, things of that, and creating bad habits. I'm trying to just share with people my journey and my experience in real time.
It's a great thing. Let's talk a little sports for a second, because what I love about you and your career, you're constantly evolving and improving upon things. From just a movie standpoint, we remember The Departed to Boogie Nights to, The Fighter and the way that you attack those roles. But then we also love The Union and The Family Plan and all that kind of stuff, all the movies with Will Ferrell. So let's talk about how Tom Brady, the GOAT, I'm curious about this as a native Boston guy. That guy is the best quarterback of all time, correct?
I think he'd still go out there today and play, for sure.
Okay, so he's the best quarterback of all time, but me thinking, I work with Fox, he heads to the booth. There's going to be a learning curve, but we're all anticipating if he's the GOAT in one area, how can he maybe not be the GOAT in another area? And the way that he's developing in the booth. Tell us a little bit about that, because you've had to grow from Marky Mark to acting to business to all those things. So how do you what's the advice you would give to him?
Well, no, look, you've just got to do it. You've got to be out there. You got to kind of figure out, because obviously he's got one of the great football minds of all time, but how you're articulating that in layman's terms for people at home so they can understand what's going on, and just being yourself. He's got a great personality. He's very funny. It's not. I wouldn't worry about being sarcastic. I think he's doing great. He'll be fine. What I do want him to do, bring Belichick here, lace him up one more time, Tommy. Throw the helmet on, and let's bring a Super Bowl to Nevada. Come on.
What do you think about Drake Maye? He had a great touchdown, Hail Mary throw from the 7 to get them in the overtime. What do you think as a rookie? What have you seen from him? What do you like? What do you don't like?
I'm just worried that, it's great to see that we have a mobile quarterback, but I'm also worried because that's really putting him in a risky, dangerous situation. I don't want to see him getting hurt. And, it's tough because I still root for the Patriots. I still think they're going to win every game that they play.
Yeah.
And, and I'm also comfortable that, it's now rebuilding and they've got to take some time, and we had a great run. But, I'm just hoping that he doesn't get hurt and that he has the time to really grow and develop.
We got the Boston energy here. Brady, of course, now a new part owner in the Raiders, and we got a guy here from Dorchester. A Boston guy right here, Mark Wahlberg. He's really making that mark, that imprint here in our community. Mark Wahlberg, thank you so much. Welcome back to Sound Off Sports. All right, so this is going to please my good friend here and producer James Edward Barrickman IV. James, we asked everybody at home about your beloved Steelers. We asked everybody, look, Russell Wilson, he's 3-0 since he's gotten the starter gig for the Steelers. Does Russ look like the old Russell Wilson we know and love? We asked everybody at home. Let's get a response right off the top.
And regarding Russell Wilson, going to play for the Steelers and for a coach like Mike Tomlin has definitely been the best thing to happen to his career. And his career has been revived. He's playing fantastic, and as all Steeler fans should know, Mike Tomlin has definitely exceeded Bill Cowher as a coach. His track record proves it. All right, Sound Off. Have a great day.
I wanna.
Yeah. As our resident Yinzer, first of all, thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony.
We love you, Anthony. You definitely sound like an East Coaster, like us, Anthony. So I love that about
this.
You.
Has nothing to do with the question at hand.
Yeah.
Are we ready to say that Mike Tomlin's a better coach all time than Bill Cowher?
You know better than me. I think they're both tremendous coaches.
He
obviously
probably has a better winning percentage. I don't know. I don't have those.
What's the Super Bowl breakdown?
So Chuck Noll had 4.
Right. All
Bill Cowher got 1 in his second to last season. Mike Tomlin got 1 in his second season and hasn't had 1 since.
So they each have 1 Super Bowl each.
Yeah, 1 Super Bowl each. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. I know that's something everybody loves to hang their hat on.
Roethlisberger has only 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah, he's been to 3. Only
gotcha.
1, 2. Cowher went to another Super Bowl and lost. So I think they're both 1-1 in Super Bowls.
So tell me this, as our resident Yinzer, our Steelers fan, our Pittsburgh native.
What I'll say.
What does the city of Pittsburgh think? If that was posed to the community in Pittsburgh, what would they say?
I think it depends. I think if you broke it down by age demographic, people my father's age, people in their 40s, 50s, not even 40s, I would say probably 50 and above, they would all go Bill Cowher.
Right.
Now, people probably below the age of 45, I bet you most of them would tell you that it would be Mike Tomlin.
But you're mature for your age. You know a lot about the game. You know a lot about ball. You know history. You know your You know your Steelers history.
I hate
What do you
playing
think?
these two against each other. I'm not ready to sit. They're both great coaches, you know? And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you Mike Tomlin's better than Bill Cowher or, hey, Bill Cowher is better than Mike Tomlin. They are both great coaches in their own right. Both 1-1 in Super Bowls. I'm pretty sure I have that accurate, that Bill Cowher is 1-1 in Super Bowls. So is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Now I know that Bill Cowher has had multiple losing seasons, but from just a win-loss record perspective, when you put them up against each other,
pretty fair.
I bet you the win percentage would even out because Mike Tomlin has a lot of 9-8,
right?
A lot of 10-7, a lot of 8-8.
Is it fair to say that Tomlin has done more with less?
I mean, I guess it depends on what your definition of doing something is, because Mike Tomlin, yeah, he's had a lot of non-losing seasons, but that hasn't amounted to trophies over since 2008.
Yeah.
It hasn't amounted to playoff wins.
I mean, put it
since 2016.
When Anthony throws that out there, the first thing I think is, wow, like what a blessing for Pittsburgh Steelers fans to have such little trauma. You know, I mean, they're like
Steelers fans are
they're lucky
spoiled
to have that kind of like. There's no dissension.
Stability.
You don't have the stability that head coaching role is beautiful. Okay,
sometimes to a fault, but let's get back.
Let's get back on track. Let's get one more response just to get us back on track.
So this one is from Vegas Dave on Facebook. He says, most of the fans are too funny. Just a month ago, you were screaming and yelling about how Wilson was over the hill and needed to go away. And now you're in love with the guy. Too funny. He's right.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here because I definitely want to hear what you have to say. So let's just clear the air here. So Russell Wilson, you know, is getting paid a lot of money still from the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton, right? His career kind of goes into the can after leaving Seattle, going to Denver. Everybody thought it was going to be a nice marriage. He gets so much money, and he ends up becoming really a prima donna. He had the special office. He had the special parking spot. It was not a good look for him, and his career was going down the drain. Starting off the season, he goes to Pittsburgh on a really a league minimum deal, you know? So he goes there. It's a good move by Khan and the Steelers, and they also go in and make the trade for Justin Fields, and there's now a training camp battle with both of these guys. But Russell Wilson starts the year off with the calf injury, so he's not playing. Steelers get off to a good start. They're 4-2 with Justin Fields. Then when Russ gets healthy, they go to him. Now he's 3-0, and let's talk about this. They've been averaging 30 points per game with Russ under center. He's averaging the most yards per attempt of his career, Russell Wilson, even more than in Seattle. 8.7 yards per pass attempt, and he's the third highest rate in his career for touchdowns per attempt. So he's playing well. And when you think, I mean, James, you tell me if I'm wrong. This is the best defense in the league. So you got the best defense in the league.
In the conversation, yeah.
Best defense in the league, and now you get Russell Wilson, who's averaging 30 points a game with this offense now, because before they're grinding out the 17 to 14 wins. Now you got the defense and you can stay on the field on offense and score some points and throw down the field. We all know Justin Fields isn't making that pass to Mike Williams to win the game.
I like what Vegas Dave said here, because there was an uproar in Pittsburgh when Mike Tomlin decided, hey, we know that Justin Fields hasn't done anything to lose the job.
Right.
But we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to go with Russ here. People were not happy. People have been ready to fight. They've been ready to run Tomlin out the door in Pittsburgh for several years now. A lot of his critics have been ready to ship him out the door. And when he makes this move to Russell Wilson, that took guts for a guy who isn't on the hot seat within the organization, but the fans are calling for your head. So that took guts to go from a guy who didn't do anything to lose the job, just to see what you got in Russell Wilson, who hadn't shown anything really in Denver. So it's really interesting, but it's paid off. So you're sitting here at 3-0 with Russell Wilson averaging 30 points a game. When was the last time we've been talking about the Steelers averaging 30 points a game at any point in the season?
I can't remember.
In 2018, before Ben hurt his elbow?
It has to be back to the days of Antonio Brown and stuff. I mean, I can't even remember.
And that's what I'm saying about 2018.
Yeah.
It's been as a Steelers fan, it has been like I forgot what it was like to have an offense on the field that can move the football because, as you mentioned, since Ben retired, and even during Ben's last couple years, it was the defense is going to have to win us the football game. They're going to have to come up with a big turnover. The defense is going to have to put points on the board because we know the offense is going to be able to do it. And that doesn't win in the playoffs. You got to be able to instill some fear into people offensively. And I think that's what Russell Wilson has brought. You just watch the games and the stats back it up. Yards per game, him versus Russell Wilson, or Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields. Russell Wilson has the edge significantly. Points per game, passing touchdowns. It all leans towards Russell Wilson. And I think this has kind of just been the perfect match that the Steelers haven't really been able to find since Ben has been gone. Because we know what Mike Tomlin's going to do with the defense, right? We didn't have an OC that could... But we didn't have a competent OC in years. And I think Ben covered up a lot of blemishes for some of the OC hires. But now you bring in a guy like Arthur Smith.
Looks good, right?
Looks great. And his offense, what he wants to do offensively fits
Tomlin.
What Russell Wilson is.
Right. But it fits everything.
And it fits Russell Wilson's skill set. And Russell Wilson, Arthur Smith fits what Russell Wilson is. You pair that with Mike Tomlin in a great defense. Now you have something. You have something that can be a legitimate contender in the AFC, I think.
And they're right. Like, that's what I love about the cohesion of that team is that they know the game plan is into this Washington Commanders game. We have to run the ball. We have to keep Jaden Daniels off the field. Yeah. So it's like they run the ball. Arthur Smith, Tomlin, everybody's in sync with what they have to do. I just think this is such a great situation for Russell Wilson. And this is why I was really gung-ho on this in the offseason, because he's playing with cash money. This isn't the stint after the Seahawks. This is the stint after the Denver collapse and that whole debacle. So now it's like the worst has already been said about Russ. This is like his third act, and he's going to get an opportunity now. Like, imagine, like, I was thinking about this as we pose this to our audience, a premier franchise in the NFL. I mean, maybe the Steelers and the Cowboys are the two premier franchises.
It's not the Cowboys.
Of the NFL. But I'm saying, and the 49ers, like, that when you put up in the echelon of, like,
all time. Yeah. Just like,
so, Steelers
brand.
Have a big brand. Russell Wilson is going to get to rewrite this crappy narrative he had about himself in Denver, where now, I mean, imagine if he takes them deep into the playoffs and we're talking potential Super Bowl run here. The narrative of the Russell Wilson career quarterback thing that was going down the tube is now suddenly transformed.
There were questions when Russell Wilson, that late in the season, his first year in Denver, people were asking, has any quarterback played his way out of the Hall of Fame conversation?
Exactly.
And so when you have, and it's like you said, when the worst has already been said about you, he's motivated. Any competitor would be. So I think what a lot of this is they asked him to be the guy, win us football games in Denver before Sean Payton got there. And that's not who Russ is. Russ, when he was at his best in Seattle, what was it? It was defense. It was run game.
Ball,
And that's exactly what he has here in Pittsburgh. And I think this kind of situation is where he's at his best. And you're seeing it right now with what they're doing to teams. And I think they really kind of put a stamp on it, beating a good Commanders team 100%. This weekend on the road.
And it's simple to me. To me, it all comes down to, do you elevate your roster? Do you elevate your team? Did George Pickens look like the George Pickens we're seeing now with Justin Fields? No,
but he hadn't. And for the talent that George Pickens is, and I'm just going to come out and say it, I think George Pickens is a top 5 wide receiver talent in the league today. When he's been in the league for, I think this is his 3rd season. It took Russell Wilson to find out that if you just throw the ball in George Pickens' direction, he's going to come down with it.
Exactly.
Kenny Pickett couldn't figure it out.
No.
Mason Rudolph couldn't figure it out. Justin Fields couldn't really figure it out. But now Russell Wilson's like, oh, if I'm gonna bind, let me just throw it up the 14. He's going to come down with it.
And Russell's got that good kind of like attitude that he chucks it up a little bit there. You get the run
deep
game
ball
going.
is back in Pittsburgh.
Yes, which is a big deal. Listen, we remember all those years. Terry Bradshaw, that was really what he was known for all those years when he won that Super Bowl. In that era, there weren't a lot of teams that mastered the deep ball. And Terry Bradshaw, you have all those, the famous catches by Lynn Swann and all that stuff. The deep ball is a part of Pittsburgh history. So exactly. So it's a shame that that's been such an absence in their offense for so long.
And with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and those quarterbacks that we have had post-Ben, pre-Russell Wilson, teams knew that they could just stack the box and play the run because they knew they didn't have a quarterback that could stretch the field like Russell Wilson is doing it now, and it has added such an element to this offense and this team. And I really think that with Russell Wilson now, playing in the system that he is in, they can compete with any team in the AFC. And I think you'll see it when they beat Baltimore. Yes, I said it, beat Baltimore this weekend.
Well, I think I sent something to you on Twitter that I want to bring up really quick before we go the break. But beyond Russell, what I love about this team, did you see what I sent you on Twitter? I sent you when in the Washington Commanders game, they did a little cadence move to try to get a false start, a neutral zone infraction by the Commanders. And if you see what happens on that critical play, the Steelers' O-line, the backfield, everybody is so jubilant. I mean, the joyful nature of this team and how collectively they feel as one, that, I think it's such a good example, similarly to what's going on in Detroit. And that's why I think this is such a fascinating show. We're talking about two teams with tremendous cultures that have such a buy-in. These are still professional athletes. They make a lot of money. Buy-in is a big deal in the NFL. I mean, to really have a coach that makes you feel that this is more than just about cashing that check and getting your bag. Tomlin is a guy who does that just like Dan Campbell. That's why I don't feel great about the Eagles. I don't know if they're at that same degree. But when you look at the Steelers and this particular clip, and you got to look it up online, it's tremendous. What did that, as a Steelers fan, that must have put such a smile on your face to see, it looked like Pee Wee or Pop Warner football guys, like a high school team of guys who were thrilled about the little details of the game.
There was a childish joy to getting the Commanders to jump on that 4th and 1 that ended the game. I think what is really interesting, because you saw how juiced up Russell Wilson was, and if you go back and watch the clip that you're talking about, it is worth a rewind 11 times to get the reaction of every single player on the field for the Steelers, because every single one of them, they're dancing. You saw Russ was doing this. He was fired up. It seems, and I don't know Russ personally, but it felt like maybe he lost the joy for the game in Denver. But he was the scapegoat for everything, and he was being attacked by his own teammates.
Yeah.
Former teammates were coming out and saying bad things about Russ. There are clips coming out showing defensive tackles who we've never heard of getting in Russell Wilson's face.
The Subway commercial. There was so much stuff going on.
There was a lot of things going on in Denver that I think have gone away now that he's in Pittsburgh, and it seems to be that between the system that he's in with Arthur Smith, the culture that is Mike Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steelers, and him getting that Denver Broncos smell away from him, it feels like Russell Wilson is back, in maybe not in the way that we knew in Seattle, but he's back to being a guy who we look at as one of the better QBs in the league, and he looks like the potential future Hall of Famer we saw in Seattle.
Yeah. It's a special moment, and I think more than anything, the defense, the run game, the culture, we all knew that amounts to something, and that's a playoff team. The question was, is this a team that can really beat Josh Allen? Is this a team that could beat Patrick Mahomes? And I think without the deep ball, it was just I don't think
there was
had
no
a chance.
hope.
Now
there was no ability to score.
With the defense, with the run game, a couple times in a playoff game, if Russ hits on a couple of those deep balls, that can be the difference maker in winning a playoff game.
Let's talk about this real quick. I know that we were talking about earlier about the Lions, how they're built. They like to run the football. They like to move people up front. They like to play defense. And their quarterback when the things around him, the O-line and the run game are there, can be effective playmakers. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy with the Lions and the 49ers. The Steelers are built the same way.
Yeah.
Great defense. At this point, an offensive line that has been playing well, a good run game, and a quarterback, when those things are happening, is an effective playmaker. So I think that they don't have the quarterback advantage against a Kansas City or Buffalo, but we've seen what they are against the Ravens. They play them this week. Harbaugh, in his last 15 against Tomlin, you want to know how many games he's won?
A lot. How much?
4.
Wow.
Harbaugh's only beaten Tomlin 4 times in his last 15 attempts. Lamar versus the Steelers in his career, 1-3, 12 total turnovers in those games, averaging 3 turnovers a game against the Steelers. He's horrible against Pittsburgh.
The Steelers have his number.
The Steelers have the Ravens' number as a whole. Tomlin has Harbaugh's number as of the last 15 games, and Lamar just can't do it against the Steelers, despite him being able to get it done against everybody else. We know who Tomlin is. He's a home underdog this week. I love the Steelers to win this week, and I think if the Steelers did happen to see the Ravens in the playoffs, give me the Steelers every single time.
It's going to be fascinating to see this. We're starting to see those marquee. The best part about last week with the Steelers and the Commanders was it felt like a playoff game.
The atmosphere was great.
Is a real playoff type of feel. So listen, I'm rooting for them. It's a great story. When you got a guy like TJ Watt, he could just wreck a whole game for a team.
We're talking about records with when TJ Watt's on the field versus when he isn't. The Steelers aren't.
Right.
They aren't the same guys.
So it's fascinating.
TJ Watt's never won a playoff game. Hopefully they can change that this year.
It's good for Russ. Listen, Sierra might have to get used to building a castle in Pittsburgh if he brings them a Super Bowl, because he's going to have the key to the city. James, as we head the break, let's get our last response on this.
This is Cedric R. Sr. on Facebook. He says, Russell Wilson is a savvy veteran that understands the Steeler way of doing things. He has definitely revived his career so far wearing the black and gold #Steelers Nation.
All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. So everybody loves when James and I talk about things that are non-sports related. James did once pose a question to me. He got very fired up, everybody at home, about People Magazine's top sexiest quarterbacks in the league. He was livid about some of the structuring.
Jalen Hurts wasn't in the top 2. I mean, throw the list away if Jalen Hurts isn't in your top 2.
He's a good-looking dude. Tush push all the way. But People Magazine has revealed its new sexiest man alive. The winner for this year, who's gracing the cover, is John Krasinski, Jim from The Office. He's also in a lot of other great stuff. He's in that Amazon series where he plays the CIA guy.
I can only see him in The Office. I'm not the biggest John Krasinski but you're
not even a big Office guy.
I'm not a big TV show, I'm not a big TV show guy to begin with.
It's a good win for People because I think he is a very handsome man. He's got a great looking beard.
Would you consider him sexy though?
Yeah, he kind of. If you saw him, you got to think non-Office.
But that's where I think of him as from The Office.
Yeah, you got to see him in this new Amazon show. The thing is, I also like that he got the cover because if you think about him in The Office, even if he's now become this hunk, he still possesses those qualities from The Office. He's an everyman, the guy that guys like, and he's not a douchebag, so he's the type of guy we do want on the cover for People. But beyond that, and we could talk about who should be on the cover and all that stuff, but I'm happy with the decision. More importantly, as I alluded to earlier in the show, you're always pranking me. You're always doing this.
I don't think I'm pranking you.
You do that. I'm coming in with this.
This is considered pranking you?
Yes, it's just but here's the thing. It's like death by a thousand cuts.
Okay.
When it's every single
single time. Yeah,
it's like time. It gets under your skin a little. So I was like, I saw an opportunity. Yesterday, we're in the back office. We're talking about who should grace the cover of People Magazine. And everybody's giving their 2 cents. And guess what? James is a smart guy. James, who did you say?
Glenn Powell.
And guess what? Tell us about the story with that.
Glenn Powell was the betting favorite, according to some article we found online.
So there was actually people taking bets on this, and he was the betting favorite. He's been all over from Top Gun to Twister to all these movies. You can't,
whatever that one was with Sydney Sweeney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look.
He's been great.
He was on the show on Netflix, the new movie on Netflix. So he's been all over, and it's been the year of Glenn Powell. So that was actually a really good guess. Me, I was thinking, listen, they're not going to choose like a younger guy because Glenn Powell's actually like 36, 37.
Yeah, he's mid-30s.
Yeah, so they usually go for that. The guys that have graced the cover, have been the Pitts, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Johnny Depp, Hugh Jackman, McDreamy, all those types of guys. So in my mind, I'm thinking, who is this going to be? And I thought, who's kind of captured the zeitgeist of the year? Who do they want to grace the cover? Who's going to be, garnering a lot of media attention? I said, who's in the mid-30s who's really captured the moment like Glenn Powell? And I'm like, Travis Kelce.
That was a good guess, too.
And that was my guess. Well, guess what? Today, I come to work and I'm like, I'm just going to make pretend after finding out that Krasinski actually landed the cover. I'm going to make pretend and tell everybody in the office to kind of like confuse James and make him believe that I had actually said it was John Krasinski.
And you started this
along.
Early in the morning, too. You had Kaja put us in a group message.
Producer for more.
Put us in a group message showing that John Krasinski won, and you were like, yes, I guessed it, right? And I'm like sitting there laying in bed thinking, I swore this dude said Travis Kelce. So anyway, I let you roll with it because sometimes you're just, you just get a little goofy sometimes.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'll let him have this one. And I thought that was the end of it.
And then you walk into the office and you start listening to all the voicemails that we get from Anthony and all the good people at home. And what happens?
I am listening to our Sound Off Sports voicemails, right? And we had more than usual, and 2 were from callers congratulating you on calling John Krasinski being named sexiest man alive. And so I'm sitting here confused, like, we never aired anything like this. We only ever talked about this in the office here.
Right.
And besides that, he never even said John Krasinski. He said Travis Kelce the whole time.
So he's getting all
So now I'm
worked up.
fired up, right?
And then people just start coming into the office.
Sending people into the office.
Mac
Hey,
and
did you hear
Tart.
about Mike? He guessed John Krasinski.
Everybody started getting in on the joke.
I think I scared one of our news producers, Matt Kling. I'm going to have to go give him a hug here later.
He's been
'cause I
sporting
kind of snapped on him.
He's been sporting a mustache for No Shave November. He was so scared the mustache walked off his face. That's how bad this is what I heard. I was hosting more, but this is how bad it was. So James, I'm sorry to have pranked you like that, but
well, so I didn't know any of that. Right. I'm just thinking, I'm like, is he really has everybody in on this?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to call you out, and you were hanging tough. You were committed to the bit the whole time.
I started losing it at the end, but I just think it's
and then you go on our Moore show, and you're like, hey, watch the A block of Moore.
Yeah.
And you admit to this whole
this
whole prank.
scheme. It was funny. Listen, I
was fired up for a little bit.
He was a little
but
tense.
I forgive you.
He was a little tense. But that's why we have such a good work-play balance here, So the funniest part about it is that it's so stupid.
It was so stupid. I was like, why is he hanging on to this?
To put so much effort into something so stupid.
So irrelevant.
It's very Tim Robinson-esque. Have you ever watched I Think You Should Leave Now on Netflix? Tim Robinson, Detroit guys were talking about the Lions. It's very just like stupid, dumb comedy that is like, why is he getting so invested in something that's the stupidest thing in the world?
There was just no reason to be this invested in this topic.
That's why I love stuff like that. Anyway,
I will say I do think my boy Glenn Powell got snubbed.
He will be it in the future.
Yeah.
He's got to be if he keeps up at this pace. That was a very good guess. Krasinski gracing the cover. Let us
Can
know.
we get some calls in about this?
Yeah,
We've gotten calls about.
Do you think it was mean of me to do the prank? Do you think it's mean that James does this to me every day? So call in about that. Call in about the people's sexiest man alive.
Should it have been John Krasinski? Should it have been Glenn Powell? Should it have been Travis Kelce? I don't think it should have been John Krasinski. Like, is he relevant these days? But I don't watch
You don't watch.
I don't watch TV like I used to.
He's like he directed that movie If. Like he directed that. It was a big kids movie. He's like a family. He's with Emily Blunt. Is his wife. That's his wife. You know her?
Nope.
She was Mary Poppins in a movie. She was in.
Okay.
She was in The Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. I don't know. You would know her if you saw her.
I'm horrible with movies. I'm horrible with TV shows. I watch sports.
He's a likable guy. He's a Boston guy. I think it's nice that they gave it to Jim. I wonder what Pam thinks about this. That's
an Office reference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you call us. Let us know what you think about everything going on in the world, whether it's the People's Sexiest Man Alive cover or it's sports. We always love to hear from you. For James Edward Barrickman IV, I'm Mike Davis. We'll see you next time here on Sound Off Sports.